Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Smith, thank you for being here. I have one question that I want to get to. First, can you explain to me why you believe as a strategy the lock versus the delete option is in the best interest of the consumer?
Yes, Senator, I think provide a very valuable service to the consumer, allowing he or she to get access to credit when they want access to credit. If they are not in the system, they hinder their ability to get credit.
How do you think that would, let's say that you had a delete option, so there wasn't a transactional opportunity for a consumer to have that information available to people who are maybe underwriting a loan. Let's say that if you took that to the logical conclusion and had all three of the information providers delete your financial record, how do you think that would affect somebody that's trying to apply for a mortgage or a loan or a credit card?
We know what would happen. If you're not in the credit ecosystem, you don't get a loan.
Do you think that's maybe even particularly more pronounced given some of the changes that we have with financial regulations and underwriting practices and scrutiny from the federal government?
I do.
Yeah. Look, the point that I'm trying to make here is you all have a problem. I associate myself with a lot of the concerns. One thing I would ask you to do, you said that you, the three individuals in question for stock disposition are honorable people that you've known for several years. They've been employed by Equifax for several years. I think it'd be very helpful to see what their pattern of stock dispositions have been over the years to see the process that they've gone through, because I think that would be helpful for this committee. I think there's an appearance issue there that you all should, or that Equifax and the individual should step up and address. But look, here's the other thing that we could be missing here. You all made a big mistake. You sound like you've got some remediation practices in place. I think you do have to get right on the long-term obligation you may have. There's a difference between a breach and exploitation. At least the other day when I asked about any evidence of exploitation of the data breach, we haven't seen any yet. But it seems to me you've got to create some sort of a footprint on the data that was exploited so that over time you can make a reasonable decision about whose problem it is to remediate any exploitation beyond the year pathway. Another thing, I mentioned it yesterday with Wells Fargo that I think is very important. The problem that resulted from maybe controls and processes at Equifax should be your problem, not the consumer's problem. In other words, you need to make it very easy and no cost to the consumer to fix a problem that they became a part of. And rather than you get into the details in this committee, it would be helpful for me to get some assurances that that's the case. I use an example of an inappropriate parking ticket that I got at using a Park Mobile app in Charlotte. When I called the folks up and said, I got a receipt right here, they said, well, you can go through 2 or 3 weeks, you can appeal, you can file it, and we're sure that it was because maybe your license tag got mixed up. I said my license tag at the time was a 3. So I think they should have been able to figure it out, but they were trying to make their problem my problem. And you need to be absolutely certain, or Equifax and the people that are taking the helm need to be absolutely certain that they can convince us that you're addressing this and not making your problem the consumer's problem. I do think it's very important for people to understand the potential chilling effect that you could have if you erase your financial history from the system. We expect you all to protect it, and we expect you all to be good stewards of it. And in this case, a variety of factors led to that not being the case, but we have to get there. I had just a comment to make. You're an aggregator of data. What this committee and every committee that's taking a look at for cybersecurity needs to understand the broad exposure that we have in this country. You're an aggregator of data. Again, I would think that your systems should be more impervious to attacks than mom and pop shops and other people who are aggregators of data based on their purchasing platforms and their supply chains. Congress needs to start thinking big picture here and how we can get the U.S. economy to a point to where when you become difficult or more difficult to penetrate, then I just go to the sources. And then I can pick it off and maybe actually do it in organizations that are far less sophisticated than you. If people think that the credit reporting agencies and the big banks are the only ones that are vulnerable, I would suggest that you go get a book that I've got on my desk right now in my office. It's called Hacking for Dummies. It's a very important book for you all to understand, for the industry to understand, and for Congress to understand. These here, you need to be held accountable. Equifax needs to be held accountable. We need to be held accountable for actually getting beyond the shiny objects of this breach, which are really important, and you need to protect the consumers and recognize we have a role to play to protect this economy. Otherwise, this is not going to end. It'll be the CEO of the week and the breach of the week, and that's not the way that we should be leading from Capitol Hill. Thank you for being here. And we will potentially submit some other questions for the record, but I think it's in your best interest, or those who are working with Equifax, to give us more information on the stock disposition patterns for the executives in question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Understand, Senator.